Holly, and welcome to Purpose. If you've been following along with me, you know that I think the world has just gone crazy. We're all nuts. Every day you read the news and you're amazed at what's happening because it feels like we've gone crazy. Why? Why does it feel like the world's crazy and we've gone nuts? Because we've gotten farther and farther away from God. We forgot our purpose. Our purpose in this world is to get closer to God, to love Him more and more every day. And by loving God, we have to love each other. Now, you know, I've said it lots of times before, loving somebody doesn't mean you have to have a relationship with them. It doesn't mean that what you think they do is right. It doesn't mean that you think, they are right. It just means that you don't wish them any harm, that you wish them that they will get closer to God, and you don't want anything bad to happen to them. And you don't talk trash about them and all that kind of stuff. That's what it means. And so God knew this stuff was going to be hard. So He gave us directions. He gave us the Bible. And if God gave us directions on how to love Him more, why wouldn't we want to read those directions? So that's what we're doing. We left off on Exodus chapter 3. So Moses fled Egypt when he killed somebody, and he thought Pharaoh's going to kill me, so he fled. And he went to another land, I don't remember where. And he found a family there, a man named Jethro and his daughters. And he gave one of his daughters, Zephra, I think was her name, to Moses to marry. And Moses had a son, and he's living his life. And one day he's out tending the sheep. Now, remember, Moses grew up in Pharaoh's house. He was kind of stuck between two worlds. He wasn't really Egyptian. He wasn't really Jewish. So he's in this land just trying to live his life. And he's out taking care of the sheep, and all of a sudden he sees this bush that's on fire, completely burning, flames everywhere. And it's not like burning up. The bush is staying intact. It's still a bush. It's not turning into ashes or anything. It's still a bush, but it's got flames coming out of it. And Moses had to think, yeah, I'm going crazy. I'm losing it. And then the bush started to talk to him. And it said, Moses, hey, Moses. And Moses did what anybody would do. He answered the bush. And he said, yeah, here I am. And the bush said, come on over here. I got to talk to you. And then it said, whoa, wait. Take off your shoes. You are on holy ground. You're talking to God. This is holy ground. Take off your shoes. Now, all over the Bible, it says how God asks us to worship Him. God doesn't need it. He's not asking us to worship Him for Him because He's got some big old ego and He needs everybody to bow down and worship Him and have pictures up of Him in each house and all that kind of stuff. No, God doesn't need that. We need it. Moses needed it. Moses needs to know when he's in the presence of God, he needs to be humble. He needs to worship God. He needs to give thanks. Just like when a parent teaches a child, you need to be respectful of your elders. You need to be kind to people. God is teaching Moses, when you're in my presence, you need to worship me and thank me and be humble. Not because God wants it, but because Moses needs it. Because we can't get closer to God if we don't realize He is the top dog. He is pure love. Pure love. He is the top dog. And we are nothing without Him. So we need to be humble. Now, let's get back to this burning bush thing. I mean, are you kidding me? Moses is talking to a burning bush. Why? Why didn't God just come down and have a chat with him? Because He knew Moses couldn't handle it. Moses's brain would just explode. He couldn't handle it. He would go crazy. He would die. He couldn't handle seeing God. And God knew that. So He wanted to meet Moses where he was. Moses could believe and talk to a burning bush, but he couldn't believe in and talk to God. And that's how we are. We can handle talking to a burning bush that's chatting with us, We can't handle talking to God. It's too much. And God knows us. So he meets us where we are. He sends people to us to help us get closer to him and know him. And so God tells him, look, I've heard the cries of Israel. Israel is the Jewish people. It's the Jewish nation. There's tens of thousands of Jews living under Pharaoh in Egypt, and Pharaoh is using them as slave labor. He's being very, very cruel to them. And they're crying out to God. God hears their cries. He hears our prayers. Every single prayer you make, God hears it. He doesn't always act on it. These people have been praying to him for 400 years. You know, God's timeline is not our timeline. He hears every single prayer. And he's not just a jerk who's not answering them. He knows when the time is right. He knew 300 years before that the time wasn't right. 200 years before that, 100 years before that. He knew that this moment with Moses was the right time. And we got to trust that an all-knowing being knows when the time is right. So if our prayers don't get answered, it's not the right time. Even if it hurts, we have to trust God. So anyway, Moses is having a chat with this bush, and God tells him, all right, you are going to take Israel, the Jewish people, out of Egypt to the land of Canaan, land flowing with milk and honey, which means it's a really great place to live. You're going to live with all the Canaanites and the Jebusites and the Hittites and all those ites. You're going to live with them in the land of Canaan. And you're going to tell Pharaoh, let my people go. You're going to tell him that you want to go 3 days in the wilderness to pray and take all your stuff. He's not going to agree with that, so you're just going to leave. And then by the end of it, by the time you actually leave, God tells Moses the Egyptian people are going to give you everything. They're going to give you their jewels and their money and their cattle, and they're going to beg you to leave. And Moses is like, yeah, right. I know, Pharaoh. I used to live there. And he said, Pharaoh's not going to believe me. He's not going to believe when I tell him God told me to tell you to let the people go. First thing he's going to say is, oh, yeah, God told you. What's his name? Because in those days, to know somebody's name meant you had a relationship with them. You knew them. You didn't just tell your name to anybody like we do today. You only told your name to the people who you trusted and who knew you. Just like I don't give my cell phone number out to just anybody. You have to know me to get my cell phone number. Same thing with God. And so God told Moses, you want my name? I'll tell you. My name is I Am. I am who I am. And he wasn't being snippy or sarcastic. He was being truthful. I am everything. I am the creator of the whole universe. I am all love. I am all knowing. I am all everything. I am. I am everything. That's who I am. That's my name. And you tell him I am sent you. And Moses is like, all right. And then God's telling him all these directions. You know, this is what you're going to do, and this is how it's going to be done. And you're going to go to the elders of Israel and tell them, I'm going to lead you out of captivity. And Moses is still, he's talking to a burning bush. He knows it's God. And he's still like, yeah, I don't think so, God. And he's like, the leaders of Israel, yeah, they're not going to listen to me. He wasn't very Jewish. He grew up in Pharaoh's house. He's not observing the Jewish faith as it was in those days. He was the least likely person to lead the Jews out of Egypt, which God does all the time. He picks the least likely person to do his will. Me doing these videos, I am like the least equipped. I'm not good with technology. I'm not good at telling a story. I'm not a genius about the Bible, but I feel like God wants me to do it, so I'm doing it. And if I only have one viewer, that's all right, because this is what God wants, and he's going to do with it whatever he wants. So Moses wasn't the best person for the job here. God knew that. he knew that he could work with Moses. And sometimes the people who seem the most qualified wouldn't be humble enough. They'd start thinking, this is all me. They wouldn't remember, this is God, this is not me. So anyway, God gave him some things to show the elders of Israel. Like he told him, you know, what's that in your hand? And Moses was like, yeah, my rod, which was a walking stick. And God said, throw it down. And it changes into a snake. And he says, grab it by the tail. And so Moses grabs it by the tail and it turns back into his rod. Now that wasn't Moses doing that. It wasn't the walking stick doing it. It was God. God did it. Wasn't anything special about that stick. Wasn't anything special about Moses. It was God. And then he did the same thing with his hand. Put your hand in your shirt, pull it out, it's all white. Put it back in, pull it out, it's been healed. And God told him, if the elders still don't believe you after that, take some water from the Nile, the river in Egypt, pour it on the ground, it's going to turn into blood. Then they'll believe you. And so Moses was like, yeah, all right, God, I get it. You want me to do all this stuff. You've given me neat tricks to show people, but I don't talk good. Now, some people think maybe Moses had a stutter. Others thought he just wasn't good at public speaking. Doesn't matter. The fact is, Moses still doesn't trust God. He's still saying, yeah, but. Okay, yeah, I know you want me to do that, but. And we do it all the time. Yeah, God, I know you want me to read the Bible, but. I know you want me to go to church every Sunday, but I know you want me to be kind to people and not wish them ill, but we have lots of buts. And Moses did too. And so God was like, oh my gosh, Moses, you're killing me here. Work with me a little bit. And he said, fine, I'll send your brother Aaron to you. Aaron will be the voice. I'll tell you what to say. You'll tell Aaron. Aaron will do the talking for you. Finally, Moses is like, all right, as long as I don't have to get up and do any public speaking, I can handle this. All right. So he went back to his father-in-law and said, yeah, I got to go back to Egypt. Took his wife, took his son, put him on a donkey, took him back to Egypt. Kind of similar to 2,000 years or thousands and thousands of years later, when, who am I thinking of here? Joseph did the same thing. Joseph put his wife Mary and son Jesus on a donkey, only he was taking them out of the land of Canaan back to Egypt for safety. I have no idea what that means, but it means something. So anywho, Moses and his wife and his son are traveling back to Egypt. They spent the night at a little inn. And this is just a tiny little blurb here that the Bible has. Sometimes there's zingers and just tiny little blurbs where it says God sends somebody to kill Moses because he's not good enough to do the job. Hello, Moses has been telling him, I'm not good enough, God. And now God's going to kill him for not being good enough? No. God's not going to kill him. It was Moses's wife, Zipporah, I think was her name. I don't remember. She was not Jewish, but she knew of the Jewish people. She knew that the sons were circumcised and that their son was not circumcised. So she knew, if you're going back to do God's will, you better start obeying the rules here, buddy. So she took a sharp flint or rock and cut his son's foreskin off and circumcised him. And so God's telling Moses, I know you're not equipped. I know you're not the perfect person for the job. I know you're lacking in a lot of areas here, Moses, but you got to work with me. You got to try. You got to follow my rules. Do what I have told the Jewish people to do. Same with us. We're not perfect. We fall down every single day. But every morning when we get up, we've got to say, today's the day, God. I'm going to do your will today. Moses didn't trust God. He didn't think he was the right person for the job. But he said, okay, I'm going to do it. And he took that first step. He headed that direction. God just reminded him, you got to do what I tell you to do. Same with us. We just have to keep trying. We have to keep getting up every day, telling God we're sorry when we mess up, telling the people we hurt we're sorry, And every single day asking God, I am yours. Do whatever you want with me. Just touch my heart. Give me the wisdom and the strength I need. Show me the way. And he'll do it. We just have to have faith in him and believe in him. Well, when we get together next time, we're gonna find out, did the people believe him or not? Did Pharaoh believe him or not? What happened when Moses went back to Egypt? Well, I pray for you, and I really do. I don't just say that. I pray for everyone who watches these videos that God will touch your heart and touch your mind and just wrap you up in his arms and fill you full of love and wisdom so that you can keep getting up every day and saying, all right, God, I'm not the best person here. I'm not the one going to church every day. I'm not the one that knows the Bible, but I'm going to do your will. You just got to show me the way, God, and he will. Have a great day today, everyone. Bye-bye.